Come back. Well, to news from Davos now. And the latest trend in developed world interest rates rising means the cost of borrowing money is increasing. This poses a greater burden on development finance institutions who are in the business of funding development at rates far lower than commercial banks. While challenged by higher interest rates, development finance institutions are trying to be innovative in keeping funding costs down. Investment in infrastructure development is one of the themes being explored at the World Economic Forum today, and our reporter Nompumelelo Siziba is standing by to tell us more. Nompu, very good afternoon to you. Well, let's start with this. Are higher interest rates going to derail much needed infrastructure investment on the continent?
Thanks very much, Natasha. Well, they run the risk of doing so. But having said that, I spoke with Patrick Dlamini. He's the CEO of DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa. And what he was saying was that they're going to find ways, or they're trying to find ways to ensure that they have what they call blended financing, so that by the time they've amassed a whole load of different funding, that, borrowing on the market, getting money from donors, private investors, and so on and so forth, by the time they've done that, the burden of the cost of actually having funds will be a bit lower. But he did say that it is quite a challenge. Having said that, there's a massive zeal to continue with investing in African projects, and he says that given the kind of blended financing that there is available, he's confident that they'll be able to go ahead and actually actualize some of the projects that are there on paper but have yet to actually materialize on the ground. Natasha.
Of course, and then they would face a number of challenges. Just remind us what the key infrastructure challenges on the continent might be.
Yes, Natasha, the challenges are humongous. We have only 13% trade, intra-African trade that goes on currently, which is nothing. And the African Union, African heads of states are looking for that to increase by a massive proportion, so that African countries can begin to rely on each other more. We know that Africa is massively endowed with agricultural land, with minerals, with so many things. So it's a very rich continent. The infrastructure is the thing that's actually failing the continent. So investment in that is so key in order to unlock the potential that's so huge on the continent. So some of the challenges are power. There's very limited power across the continent. Issues around transportation, moving from A to B, again, another challenge. Ports. There's so many ports and so many restrictions, so many visas that people have to get. It's very difficult to move across the continent. So they want to create a situation where you have one central port to make it easier for people to do trade, and hence the reason you get this 13%, because the current infrastructure is so poor. And once that actually gets going, in terms of the infrastructure being actualized, it should prove a huge benefit for the continent, and we won't be referred to as the poor continent going forward, hopefully.
And Nompu, before I let you go, what's Team SA up to today? Who and what are they speaking to?
Well, obviously, Team SA is composed of your heavyweights in the corporate world, government, and we have some labour representation as well. We've been keeping tabs on what the Deputy President is doing. He's going to be meeting with the OECD today and the IMF. He's also going to be he has been involved in a couple of talks already, and we know that he's going to be speaking on African development, African infrastructure development later on in the evening. So very active participation that's happening here. And then in a short while, we are going to have the opportunity to speak directly with Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan to get his take on what WEF means and the benefits for the country and so on, and any domestic issues that may be bubbling there at home. Just get his take on what he's thinking and feeling about the country. Natasha.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing more on that interview. Nompumelelo Siziba from a very cold Davos, thank you very much. Nompu bringing us an update on just one of the themes that are being discussed today.